Filtered treat knowing Jacob. So let me just pin him here and we'll get started. Just give me a second. So happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Real Time Coaching Lab. I have one of my brothers from another mother on this earth and one of my closest friends, Jacob Zemer here. What's most
Greg's one of my only friends, so
Yes, I'm one of Jacob's only friends. It's a good claim to fame. And what's really interesting, where people really struggle the most, is this concept of eating, right? We live in our cars, we're always on the go. And I always say that Jacob is the only human that I've met on earth that can actually teach people how to eat food that tastes good and actually get in the best shape of their life. So we're going to dive into things: diet, travel, like living a maintained life. Jacob has a very unedited, unfiltered view on some of these, as he would say, bullshit fads and things. And, at the end, you're going to walk away with a lot of different knowledge. And I always find that when people talk to him, they get confidence. I'd say this wholeheartedly, and I mean this because he doesn't have any malice intentions, but he really, really cares. So if he offends any of you, I apologize in advance on his behalf, but he's saying it because he cares. So Jacob, just give them a quick, like 60-second rundown of your story, and let's just hop right into the meat and potatoes of it.
sure. Was born in Portville, New York. Population now is like closer to 900 people. My dad was an alcoholic. My mom was 15 years old when she became pregnant with me. 16 years old, gave birth to me. Dyslexic kid, bastard, small town America, not much hope. Somehow, got myself through accolades and undergrad, graduate degree. Kind of struggled with what to do with my career. And then I had always, my passion had always been fitness. I got a degree in nutrition, and I ended up just at one point saying, okay, I clearly can't work for anybody else. I'm going to go into personal training. I'm going to go into fitness, which is a term now I loathe. I loathe the term personal training, but I went into that career and I just blew up. And for whatever reason, I've really struck a chord with the executive level clients. One of my first clients was the CEO of AIG. I've worked with a lot of Compass agents, and I primarily what I do now is I coach people. I think from working at Equinox and working with people such as yourselves, I realized that there's the other 23 hours in the day other than your 1 hour at the gym. And I think that's where people struggle. They just needed somebody to come in and help them organize it all because life is just moving at you so fast paced, which is what I'm going to talk to you guys today as real estate agents. Because it's moving at you so fast paced, it's very easy to kind of let things slide or to kind of let things happen haphazardly. So I'm going to talk to you kind of for an operating system of like, how do you eat on the go? And just more importantly, like a little bit of like how to structure it, which is what I do overwhelmingly with coaching clients. Strog's been a coaching client. He's actually a coaching client right now. He just said, hey, I just need to have some help getting back on the wheel because just because you're amazing in one area of your life, like Shrog is with building a business, doesn't mean you are in every area of your life. There's things I'm working on. I just became a father 7 weeks ago to a little boy. And, like I can change a diaper, I can bottle feed, but like the first time I did each of those things, it was really fucking intimidating. Thank you, Kimberly.
It's
Um,
yeah, I'm a boomerang, right? Like I worked with Jacob and I was literally down to 6.5% body fat. But
yeah,
look,
ripped.
like, even coaches need coaches. And look, let me start this off by saying, for people, how important is planning your week for meals? Like having an idea with your schedule. Like let's just start with the basics.
Well, let's just start with the reality before we even get there. Here's the reality. In your career, and you guys know this as real estate agents, people are going to judge you by how you look. And that's just the simple fact. I put that in the copy of my website, and my wife, who's a partner at accounting firm, she pushed back. And she had been working remotely at that time because of like COVID and slowly integrating. And someone that she was working with, who had always been on Zoom calls with the camera off, showed up to the office. And the gentleman was quite overweight. And she's like, you know what? You were actually right. I actually, when I saw the guy, I thought differently of him. And it's just the reality is that if you look good, if you've got a nice like polished beard or you've got a nice like silhouette shape, people are going to treat you differently. And that's the reality of it. Besides the fact you guys are an asset. You're out there every day trying to make income and trying to make sales. And so part of all of that is for your family or for yourself. And the best thing you can do for yourself is taking care of yourself. If you don't feel 100%, you're not going to sell it 100%. If you aren't healthy, you can't do anything else right in your life. And so the things that are really important for your health, like without dispute, our body composition, you don't have to have ripped abs. I'm not talking about that, but like being below 22% body fat. We know without a doubt that's one of the top things you can do for your health. The second thing is really nutrition accounts for about 20% of health. Activity, exercise is the most important thing that you can do for brain health, followed by sleep. And I'm not going to really push sleep because I get it, because like it's really hard to get like 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep when you're dealing with kids and when you're dealing with careers and all that. But those other three things, those are really controllable things that you guys need to think about each and every single week so that you can be your best self, both how you present yourself and how you also feel. And again, so that you have longevity, that you can be doing this long term. So I think what I would say to you first and foremost before anything is that preparation is the number one thing that you can do for your nutrition. And what that means is finding things that you can actually take with you on the go in your car all day. And I don't know each of your business. Some of you guys might be on the field more than others, but I assume
They're
most of
all in
you are
their
going,
cars, Jacob, all the time.
oh,
Cars.
great. So even listen, and I would say this, and this is why Schrag said what I'm going to talk to you about today is really application. Before you get caught up in like protein bars are evil or this or that, just understand that perfection is the enemy of good. And even myself, I have abs, I have a fitness business, I have hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. I'm the top 1% of YouTube. I have a protein bar from time to time. I go out to dinners out because that's just part about being a real human being. There you go, Lori. Ginger shots or protein bars or jerky, or there's these bars called That's It, that's fruit, or even grabbing an apple when you walk out of the door, those sort of things, or even packing a little cooler with you that you can take on the day with you. Like I bring a little bag to me with me every day. Ugh, like a little 6-pack bag, and I put my meals in here before I go out the door at day, and I put 2 of them in there, and I have my fruit with me and some dark chocolate, and I stop and grab my coffee. So I think having something that you can take with you on the go, whether it's just protein bars in the back of your trunk or it's having some fruit with you on the go, very, very important. Preparation is key, and also having an idea of what your day looks like. But I get it. Things are coming at you fast, things switch, but that's why you want to have stuff with you. You can actually use, whether it's packed nuts, whatever it might be. Have those things.
If you meet Jacob and he opens his trunk, it looks like an aisle at a fitness store, right? There's
That is
all
correct.
kinds of different. So let me ask you, this is a random
By
thing.
the way, and it's a nice car. I have a beautiful car. It's a beautiful car. You open the
Nothing
trunk,
to
but
do
you're
with
going to
your
see,
car. So you can see all protein.
yeah,
How do
but
you
yeah,
make
but
sure
no,
they
but
don't melt in the summer? What do you do?
100%. Well, I don't carry the protein bars during the summer. I actually carry protein chips with me during the summer. You have to pull them out, and I also don't actually. The other thing I change is I usually keep actually a case of bottled water in the back, and I actually get rid of that during the winter time because they likely freeze, and when they freeze, they can increase the microplastics in it and things like that. So just having stuff on with me that I can take all the time. Yeah, keep a banana in the car. You guys get it. But my point is, do it. Actually walk out of the door prepped. And then the other thing I'd say really important is start your day out light because you don't know where your day is going. You always want to play with the house's money. So when I start my day, I'm thinking about something like non-fat Greek yogurt. I'm thinking about something like smoothies. I'm thinking about something like I have an egg boiler that actually you put the eggs in this little container and it actually will boil the eggs in about 10 minutes while I'm walking around and getting set up. So things like that that can just have you really make it very, very easy for you to start your day off light. Very, very important. Because the less calories you have at the beginning of the day, the more you have where if you, oh, I ended up being at a work dinner. Oh, I ended up having to go out to lunch. You have more room to play with the house and money.
And by the way, so there's I use this and most of us do that work with Jacob, My Fitness Pal, right? Like you don't anyone can use it, right? But here's the interesting part. I went out to dinner with my girlfriend last night, and so because I have a coach now, him, and I don't want to hear the crazy shit that he'll tell me if I don't like follow his directions, right? I'm like looking at this, I'm like, don't cook in the oil, sauce on the side. And then I always used to get stuck like, how do I log this? So I literally put the food menu into ChatGPT and say, I need to log this in for my coach. How would I log it in? And it's actually there to tell you. And the most amazing thing, and I'll share this from my perspective of like being like really obese or really in shape and somewhere in between, when you start putting your food into that thing, it's like, wow. Like
You
you
don't realize how much you're eating. You don't realize that you're having 300 calories at Starbucks or things like that. And that's what I'd say is that most people, they just simply don't realize how much they're eating in a day or how much control they actually have in these situations. So that's the number one thing I would say is just trying to start light and then also figuring out when you can be active. And that's what a lot of people struggle with as well is I would say making sure that if you can't work out on the weekends, then making sure that you have a set time during the weekdays. If you can work out during the weekdays, doing it early. Maybe you're not one of those people who can go to the gym late in the evening. Then make sure you set up time for yourself by yourself in the morning. We have a home gym. My wife just had a child. Right now, she's working out at the home gym very often. So just setting yourself up for success, because activity plays such a crucial role in you being able to be in the shape and feel the way you want to.
So there are a lot of people, right, that as you say, perfection is the enemy of good, right? Is that they're not doing anything, but the idea of getting started requires a trainer, a workout plan, a nutrition plan.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll throw myself under the bus here, as you guys all know me. Jacob sent me a workout plan. It is 3 days. I said, well, what do I do the other days? And the response was, well, you're not doing 5 days. So why would I give you 5 days? Start with three, show me
Yeah.
three, and then go to five, right? So for people trying to get started from 0 to 1 that are like sedentary, not doing anything, where is a good place for them to get started where it's not overcomplicated?
The first thing to do is find something you actually enjoy. And that is very much like dating. That's all it is. You're going to go out and you're going to go try Orange Theory, or you're going to go try a Pilates class. Ask one of your friends. If you have a friend who's like in shape and you like get along very well, ask them what they like to go do and go do that with them. Because the number one thing to adherence on, I think there's two huge factors to adherence. One is sleep. Getting enough sleep helps people adhere to exercise. That's just fact. And two, actually enjoying what you're doing. So if your friends are into pickleball, it's very easy for you to become into pickleball. I would say that's the place to start. Don't worry about like, oh, like I have to be doing this much amount of cardio or I have to do this much amount of weight training. First and foremost, find an activity that you actually enjoy and go and do that.
All right, so that's the activity part. Just so everyone knows, we're gonna get into now. We're gonna go in like hardcore food, right? For the
Yep.
remainder of this, Jacob
Yep.
has the best guides for snacks and desserts, and he's been kind enough to share his guides with us that we'll send out to all of you. They'll have his details as well. So can you just bust the myth that to get into shape you have to eat like dried chicken, plain rice, and a vegetable that tastes like crap every time?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing that people don't understand, I'll see it all the time. I'll see somebody trying to order right, and they'll go to something like Chipotle and they'll order the chicken and they'll get the rice and they'll get the guacamole and they'll have this huge scoop of guacamole on that that's like 400 calories, and then they pour the cheese on top. And all of those things by themselves may be healthy, but it's just the amount of portion of it is. And so people have this idea of what is healthy is actually like, oh, I can only eat chicken or I can only eat avocado. Many times it's more about the actual portion than anything else. And of course, the majority of your diet should be single ingredient food. So things we think of: salmon, blueberries, almonds, that should be the majority of your diet. But there's definitely room for about 20% of your diet to be things like, for example, there's a proper fries. It's a product out right now. I throw it in the oven or I throw it in the air fryer. It tastes just like actual French fries. I had that last night. I had bought some cod. We threw that in the oven with some tomatoes. It was absolutely delicious. We had the French fries on the side. It was fantastic. And then afterwards, I had a Yasso frozen Greek yogurt bar. And so I ended up in the end of my evening having basically an ice cream treat, frozen Greek yogurt, and French fries to finish my day. And that's where I think people get stuck. Again, I think a lot of people, when they're going out, they're thinking of healthy as quote unquote healthy. A Caesar salad has as many calories as a classic cheeseburger. I would say that you want to think about the portion sizes that you're having. And then I think you want to look for things that actually can help you fit into your macros. Of course, the original, most of what you should be eating is single ingredient food, but a lot of people are going to struggle there. They're going to fall short.
You got a good comment here. And struggling with love sweet stuff. All right. So before
Yeah.
we
And
go,
there's tons of, but this, at this day and age, Mary, the food industry has revolutionarily changed just because there's so much money behind it. And so you have things now like Halo Top, which is low calorie protein ice cream. You have things like Chiasso. You have things like Clio Bar. I mean, again, my wife was a sorority girl. She's a partner at an accounting firm now, and she likes to taste the Clio bars. So there's stuff out there now that actually really does taste delicious.
skinny cow, vanilla and chocolate ice cream sandwiches, delicious, 100
Delicious.
calories.
Delicious. And we all know, listen, we all know the majority of the diet should be things, again, back to like a really lean steak or potatoes or a spinach salad. Great. There's room for all that stuff. But you
Can I ask
also,
a quick
too,
question
you have
though?
to be a real human being.
Jacob, for people like that actually go out to these salad places, is one thing I've learned from you is how much of a scam a lot of these salads are. So if you're going to like I'm trying to think like Chopped or one of those places,
Yes.
how do you
Sweet
order
greens.
there? Sweet
Look,
green.
The easiest way to do that is to just put in Jacob Zemer, my name, and then put in sweet greens because I literally have videos on my YouTube detailing it. And the reason I say to go to YouTube is you can find me if you follow me on Instagram. All of this stuff is here where I talk about all these foods in depth. But if you go to YouTube, you can use it as a search engine and go up, look at it. I have long format and short format videos. I'm talking about that. The number one thing to think about when you're at a sweet greens or something like that is to think about keeping the sauce on the side because sauce can be something like 90 calories for every 2 tablespoons. And if they just drench that all over top, you've instantly added 300 calories to your salad. So portioning out that and then thinking about like, do you have 20 toppings on your salad? Right? Try to stick with like the simplest toppings. Then stick with something that's a protein base. Try to stick with things that are actually vegetables on top of it. Because a lot of times you can go to sweet greens and you can eat 800 calories. And again, you're back to the same amount of calories as a cheeseburger. I'm not saying that a cheeseburger is healthier than sweet greens. I'm just telling you that they are both going to result in you being the same weight.
What about portion
And to
size?
Mary asked a question with dark chocolate. There's a lot of great dark chocolates out there that are now are really delicious. And there are some really like fun flavors like espresso bean or like with cranberries in them. Endangered Species makes some really good flavored dark chocolates. 70% cacao or greater is what you want to look for. And if you get in that range of like 70 to 80% cacao, it's still sweet. It still tastes like a chocolate bar. Obviously, it's not going to taste exactly like a Hershey's, but it still tastes very much like that. But it's super rich in polyphenols, as a matter of fact, which is a plant-based antioxidant. It's actually one of the richest sources of plant polyphenols there is. Outside of like olive oil, it is one of the richest sources of polyphenols, so and antioxidants.
Well, olive oil is another one. Let's talk about that, right? Like when people douse their food or pan in olive oil, you look at a quarter, what is it? A quarter of a tablespoon, is it? It's like 100 calories, something like that.
Yeah, I've heard of sea moss smoothies. Sea moss is highly nutrient dense. These things are good, but none of these things, here's what you need to understand. Taking any one thing out of your diet or putting any one thing in your diet is not going to absolutely change your world. It's just not. It's not. None of these things are going to have that profound of an impact. And there are things like Yucca apps and stuff like that. Great. How much does seed oil really matter? It's pretty useful for selling products that don't have seed oil in it. Seed oil is a polyunsaturated fat. I would just, again, I would really more than anything because people right now, like the big thing on social media and stuff like that, is to talk about a single ingredient in a food. I would just be. The truth is, the people who live the longest and the healthiest are people who have good body composition, are people who have high VO2 maxes, which means they have good cardiovascular activity. So keeping your weight under control and being very active. And these topics are often offensive to people, but it's just the reality. Number one correlation with diabetes, obesity. Number one correlation with cancer, obesity. Number one correlation with heart disease, obesity. So and you don't have to have ripped abs. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about keeping it a good, healthy weight. And then being active because cardiovascular health, again, leading cause of death is so important.
So in terms of, eating on the go, right? What
Yep.
what are some go-to things that you'd suggest?
If I was traveling, like right now, I'm in Larchmont, New York, and I said, shoot, I have to go get a meal. The Chico's is right around the corner. I could stop there at the hot bar. I know there's going to be chicken. I know there's going to be some sort of vegetable. I would go look for by the way, very good tasting chicken. Like the chicken's going to be like very moist and tender. I know there's probably going to be a fish on there. I'd look for something that's not fried or breaded. I'd grab something like that. I'd grab a plate of vegetables. I'd grab something like a very simple starch if I needed it, depending on my size, something like rice or carbohydrate. That's what I'd be using. I'd stop at a hot bar. The other thing that's really easy to do, something like Mexican food is very easy to do, especially if you get something like the fajita. Be careful. Those tortillas, they are very caloric, especially if they're wheat. Corn is less so, but wheat is very caloric. One of those is like 300 calories. People don't know this, but the tortilla is actually simply fried, and that's what they make the chips out of. So those things are very caloric, but actually just having like the fajita meat and the onions and peppers or the mushrooms, whatever they're using for that particular fajita, that's a great way to go. Be corn always. If you're going to get a tortilla, always go corn over flour. There are ones you can buy in stores that are good, like La Tortilla Factory. They have a carb balance wrap with a ton of fiber. But in general, if you're at like a Mexican restaurant, they're not the high fiber wraps. So avoiding wheat is really important. I have a complete guide for restaurants. We have a complete guide looking at Mexican restaurants, sushi. Sushi is one of the easiest things to eat out, like my go-to when I was single was to go to sushi because one, it's not very long. Two, it's not very expensive, so it's not a very big commitment if things are not going the right way on a date. But also, it's a great way to follow a diet while eating sushi because sashimi. I mean, you could eat a ton of sashimi and you're still going to be very low on calories. And even the rolls, most of the rolls are very light on calories, unless you're getting like into like mayos or fried or things like that. But sushi's always a great option when you're on the go and you're looking for something to eat. Uh, Chick-fil-A, I know I'm going to sound like sacrilege here, but Chick-fil-A has grilled chicken nuggets there. They're super, super low in calories. I mean, just very, very easy to eat. Like Chipotle, if you know how to order there, very, very low in calories. If you go with something like the black beans and you get a ton of vegetables with it and some chicken in a bowl, that's a great way to go. Um, Sweet greens can be done right. Again, just you don't want to put the entire kitchen sink on your salads, just really portioning it out right. Very, very important.
All right, I'm just going to share this with people quickly. Look, if you look at his Instagram, there are literally just video upon video upon video, like simple Greek yogurt recipe. Like, this is delicious, right? Favorite food snacks at Whole Foods. Go to condiments when dieting, right? Four foods I'm buying on repeat at Whole Foods, hitting 150 grams of protein for 50
Costco.
calories.
Everybody loves Costco.
Yep, everyone loves Costco, right? These things I have, these are delicious, right? So if you follow his Instagram, you can literally go on there and find so many different good options, right? So
In
here's,
terms of like natural sugars being bad and things like that, yeah, everybody has sugar in the body. If you didn't have sugar in your body, you'd be dead. I know people like to simplify things and say that stuff, but you'd be dead. If you everyone has sugar, everyone has to have glucose. If you don't have glucose, which is sugar, you're dead. So there's a lot of nonsense out there. There's a lot of fear mongering, and the reality is also too. Like I mean, look, I have two kids at home. I have a house in Westchester, right, which we all know what houses are like in this area, and I have a business. I have four employees underneath me. There's no way to follow a perfect diet. There's no way to follow a perfect workout activity. And that is with me also too being in this career. So I've like put all my eggs into a basket. No, every single analysis you ever see involving fruit and vegetables always show people being healthier. There's no study involving fruit with people where they're like, oh, I've never, and by the way, I've helped thousands of people lose weight, thousands of people through coaching, thousand people through PT. I have a studio over in Larchmont. I've never met a single client where I'm like, you're overweight because you're eating apples. Like that doesn't happen. Go look at the person's weekend. I had somebody the other day who was saying that broccoli was unhealthy to me on Instagram, and they said that it causes gut irritation. So I clicked on their profile. There were 5 pictures in their profile just as I was scrolling through the beginning where they were drinking alcohol. I just said to her, I said, well, how about alcohol? You got multiple pictures of you drinking alcohol. Is alcohol bad for your gut? Because everybody virtue signals. Like I'm not a saint. I was at a French restaurant Wednesday in the city, and they had this incredible bottle of Pinot Noir, and they knew I was an influencer, and a friend of mine is an investor, and they said, "Look, we opened this earlier. Like we would never spoil this by the glass." I had 2 glasses of it, and I don't drink every day. I certainly have very few drinks per week, but I have it from time to time. No, no alcohol is healthy for you. They're all carcinogen. Wine does have an antioxidant known as resveratrol, but if you're looking for that antioxidant, have grapes, right? I mean, some of this is common sense, guys. We just kind of all have lost the plot on it. So that's a lot of what we talk about on Instagram. It's a lot of what I do in coaching. But most importantly, the most important thing I'd say to you is go get your blood work. Any of you on this call, if you haven't seen your doctor anytime recently, please go get your labs. You're an investment for your family, especially if you're in 40s and your 50s. Go get your blood work done. Be cognizant for a lot of reasons about weight gain, and stay active. Find something that you enjoy doing for fitness. That's the first step. And then the other thing is, as I always tell people, besides staying active, but another way of staying active is just moving. You guys are all doing that. I'm sure you guys are all on your feet. You're all hustling. That's at least happening. At least you guys are all very active.
yeah, all right, so we have 5 more minutes. So you guys have been good about questions. And look, I'll just say this. If and Jacob and I went back and forth about this, and ultimately he was right. I was getting also into like foods and talking about like genetic food testing, and it's not that it's irrelevant, but his point is if you're still overeating, it doesn't matter how many, like how good the quality of the food is, you're still going to gain weight and you're going to have a problem, right? So, I think just give him your quick theory on your calories and your diet being a budget.
Yeah, I think you view calories as a budget the same way if you were in the debt. Like if you need to lose 10 pounds, you're basically in debt 35,000 calories. So, and until you burn off or expend or pay back those 35,000 calories, you should view it as having very limited disposable income. That doesn't mean from time to time you shouldn't eat out with friends, or it doesn't mean that you don't have to have work dinners, but you should really see yourself as like, oh, I'm going to be very smart in how I spend money. Right now, we're doing a landscaping project in my house. We have a night nurse. My wife wants veneers. Guess what? That means that there's not really going to be anything Jake's doing fun with also having a child and having another child previously, so brand new baby. We're we're going on a very minimal vacation this summer, and I'm not doing anything for Jake for foreseeable year because those other things take precedence. So I'm allocating my budget to that, and that's the same way you should view staying in shape or getting in shape. And I can tell you firsthand again, and I don't want to sound. This is where I usually people get offended because they sound like when I've been done calls for Chirag where I talk about being in shape, but I have abs. I'm a very, 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 very strong human being. VO2 max of 56, which is like in the superior range. It's like in the professional athlete range. I can run 8 minute miles, all that stuff. And I can tell you, I do not follow a perfect diet. I go out to eat at least once a week. I went out, I had to go to that French restaurant this week. My wife, she wants to go on her first date since the baby tonight. We're going to Hinoki in Greenwich for sushi. It's just part of real life. Like part of real life is eating out, or part of real life is saying, like, oh, how am I going to fit this meal in? Stopping at a convenience store and saying, damn, I've been on the road. Let me grab a protein shake, or let me grab a convenience store banana instead of the organic banana from Whole Foods.
Look, I think that's the most important part, right? If you just, whether you download his app, sign up for his program, whatever, you get enough out of Instagram, right? I think your workout plan app is $20 a month.
Yeah, workout plans 29 and 9.95 a month, and that
I've worked
includes
with Jacob
macros,
too.
etc.
He's a client, but his app, one, I tell him to charge more money. Two, it's literally $1 a day, but it's I love it because it tracks everything for me. I'm stuck with him every morning when I don't know how to do an exercise. I click the thing. There's a great video there. So look, all of you, there's 70 some of
My
you
IG is my name, Jacob Zemer.
here. I'll put a link in here. Look, and we'll also send you an email with all of his website, contact information, Instagram handle. And look, you guys obviously took the time to be here because you care about yourselves. You have to do something, right? Like the plausible deniability of I have to eat a perfect diet. How many meals am I going to eat? All of those things just overcomplicate things, right?
I do.
If you're not doing anything now, just make one better decision tomorrow and you're ahead.
I've met maybe two people in my life, and I'm serious, as somebody in this career who it really does. They're like a fitness cyborg. They're like what you think of. I've met two people. Everybody else, I find, oftentimes they virtue signal or for whatever reason. But ultimately, the nice thing about fitness, genetics do help. But the nice thing about fitness is that you can see. Nobody ever looks at me and be like, oh, I mean, the running joke with people when they see me is like, oh, do you ever work out? Or you don't lift weights? Like, because it's obvious what I'm doing and taking care of myself. And we all know that. And we all look at each other and we make those assessments. And most importantly, I want to be, and even for myself, like when I'm making decisions, I want to have health and I want to be prepared to be able to take care of my kids. So, and that means being able to be the best self at my career. And that means being able to be the best self when I'm playing with them.
That's it. So look, all of you, I see Rebecca in your car. I hope you got some. I hope if you're going to stop, you can make some good decisions, right? I don't know how many other people are in their cars or driving. So Jacob, thank you so much for being here. We'll send
Thank you
out
for having me.
guides, and as always, love my heart, love you all. We'll see you all next week. Bring a friend and make sure to connect with Jacob on Instagram. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thank you.